The last rays of a late summer dusk bled through the sheer curtains of the living room, painting the walls a bruised violet. The hush was suffocating. A single lamp hummed on the side table, its light flickering as though unsure it should remain. In the far corner, a framed photograph lay face down on the floor. The glass cracked, the image inside broken. No one dared speak. No one dared move. Yet in that oppressive moment, all that the Harwood family had believed, all the whispered reassurances and hidden smiles, was about to unravel. In the silence, a letter slid across the mahogany desk. Its envelope was unremarkable, plain white, addressed in delicate script. But its contents would topple truths and unravel lives. As the lawyer rose, hand trembling, she looked at the assembled siblings. Margaret, the prim eldest daughter, Daniel, the charming doctor, and Elena, the youngest, unmoored and secretive. They had come believing their father's will would settle every doubt, but instead it would ignite more. The lawyer exhaled, and in a voice heavy with dread, she began, "This document confirms that one of you is not who you think you are." Their breaths caught, the weight of years pressed down, waiting to crush them. The secret they buried so long ago was about to be exposed. Before we go deeper into this chilling case, I'd love to know, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city or country in the comments. And as the details unfold, tell us, do you believe this was an act of greed, betrayal, or something darker? Also, if you're drawn to haunting mysteries like this one, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps us keep these secrets exposed and bring you more stories that the world should never forget. The year was 1994, in the leafy suburbs of Portland, Oregon, a city of rain-muted colors and overhanging pines. The Harwood family had lived in their stately brick home for decades, the kind of place people admired but rarely entered. To the outside world, they were picture perfect. Charles Harwood, the patriarch, was a successful businessman with a soft smile and a reputation for generosity. His wife, Evelyn, passed away when the children were small, leaving him alone with three young ones he raised with quiet dignity and firm discipline. Margaret, the eldest, was 14 when her mother died. She took on the matriarch's mantle early, cooking, organizing, comforting. Daniel, 2 years younger, pursued medicine with a fierce ambition, using his father's steadiness as a foundation. Elena, 6 years younger than Daniel, was the wild spirit, always pushing boundaries, drifting between closeness and distance. The siblings seemed to orbit Charles with loyalty, even as shadows clung at their edges. The townspeople whispered about the Harwoods, how somber their laughter, how perfect their garden, how little the children ever talked about their mother. What no one knew was that in the vault beneath Charles's study sat a folder labeled "Confidential," containing letters, papers, and a single adoption decree, one that would remain hidden until the final act. For 30 years, its contents lay dormant, a coiled snake waiting to strike. Charles, in late 1993, had begun to grow ill. Fatigue, intermittent fevers, a quiet desperation that none of the children recognized until it was too late. His health waned, and as he lay confined in his study more often, the burden of secrecy pressed on his chest. He grew silent, his eyes distant, his voice trailing. Margaret served dinner in silence. Daniel hovered at the door. Elena slipped in and out, her own life pulling her elsewhere. But in every evening's hush, Charles felt time slipping, and with it, the chance to set things right. Then came the night of the confrontation. Daniel, returning home late from the hospital, wandered to the study door. He heard muffled voices. Inside, Charles, sounding strained, said, "You deserve to know." Elena replied, her voice low and urgent, "What are you talking about?" And then, "I can't live with the lie anymore." The door clicked and Daniel froze. No one noticed him slip away. The next morning, Charles Harwood was found unresponsive at his desk, a faint smile on his lips, holding the adoption papers. It was ruled a heart attack, but inside the family, a storm began to grow. The betrayal began with a name, Eleanor Ray. She was a young woman Charles met in the early 1960s in Chicago. She had given birth to a daughter, not in Oregon, not in the Harwood home, but in secrecy. The child, named Susan Ray, was entrusted to Charles's care under a clandestine arrangement. Evelyn Harwood, young and fragile, died shortly after. Charles, smitten with the baby and haunted by guilt, brought Susan North and presented her as their third child, naming her Elena. For decades, Elena believed she was biological, that her brothers shared her blood and their mother's warmth. The documents in that vault, however, told a different tale. The adoption decree confirmed that Elena had no genetic link to Charles and that Eleanor Ray had retained parental rights, never surrendered formally. The folder held letters from Eleanor expressing guilt, horror, hope for reconnection. One letter dated 1985 read, "I am ashamed to ask, but I want to know if she knows who she truly is." Another from 1992, "If Charles disappears before I speak, all will be lost." That final warning, unwritten, remained buried. The betrayal was deeper than misrecognized parentage. It was a life built on a foundation of silence and theft. The last conversation between Charles and Elena was fraught with tension. As portrayed by witnesses, Elena confronted him. "Why never tell me? I had a right." Charles replied, "I feared losing you. I feared you leaving." There was a pause and then, "But I can't carry the lie forever." That was the moment the facade began to crack. A near discovery came when Margaret stumbled onto the study floor, glimpsing the open folder on Charles's desk. She recoiled and backed away. "You'd better not open that," Charles whispered in alarm. Margaret shut the door and fled. The secret remained, the fight internal. In his final hours, Charles attempted to draft an amendment to his will, to reassign his estate, to name his children and include provisions for Eleanor Ray. He filled the margins with scrawled notes: Elena, Susan, rightful heir, Eleanor trust fund. But the document was incomplete, unsigned. The sealed envelope from the lawyer that night would overturn all of it. The case that followed was as twisted as any crime thriller. The Damascus County Sheriff's Office was first to step in, treating the death of Charles Harwood as natural, until the file of documents came to light. The lawyer, pressured and trembling, revealed the envelope, the adoption certificate, the letters. Investigators pored over every page, comparing handwriting, verifying the deed in Cook County, Illinois, and drilling Eleanor Ray's whereabouts, alive and forgotten in a northern suburb of Chicago. Detective Marisol Cruz led the team. On her first visit to the Harwood home, she noted the silence. No family photos of Evelyn, no baby portraits of Elena. The third child's baby pictures were fuzzy, undated, a red flag. She interviewed Margaret. "I always felt she was different," Margaret said, voice tight. Daniel, in his sterile office, replied, "He was our father." No secret could change that. Elena, learning the truth, refused every meeting, barricading herself in her own grief. "You're taking everything from me," she cried during one interview. That emotional upheaval stalled cooperation. Cruz uncovered bank statements showing a secret trust fund in Eleanor Ray's name, funded over decades from Charles's business accounts. She traced letters mailed under pseudonyms. She located Eleanor, now in her 70s, living quietly, her granddaughter unaware of the truth. Eleanor, when contacted, responded with a shaky voice, "I never meant harm. I only wanted the daughter I lost." She provided affidavits, DNA testing consent, and memories of Charles's early promises. The results confirmed Eleanor was not related to the Harwoods by blood. Meanwhile, the will's ambiguity triggered lawsuits. Margaret and Daniel contested the adoption revelations, calling them irrelevant, claiming Charles's intent was clear. Property belonged to his children, regardless. Elena, shaken and enraged, demanded her full share in a separate trust for Eleanor Ray. The courtroom became a theater of insult, grief, and betrayal. The judge, confronted with incomplete documents and conflicting affidavits, faced a moral and legal labyrinth. Public reaction was equally fierce. Newspapers ran speculative columns. Betrayal in Portland, inheritance to a stranger. The Harwood name, once respected, became the subject of whispers. Some neighbors spoke of strange comings and goings on the night Charles died. Others stood silent, as though spared from commenting on a family no one fully understood. The trial droned on. Daniel's medical reputation faltered. Margaret's marriage strained. Eleanor retreated into therapy and silence. In a final twist, the court ruled a partial settlement. Elena retained her share of the estate as a legal child, with additional funds directed to Eleanor Ray, but not a majority relocation. Margaret and Daniel accepted the ruling reluctantly. The judge stated, "Blood is not the sole measure of family, but intent and equity must guide distribution." The resolution left every party wounded. But in the aftermath, no one returned to the old normal. Elena moved across state lines, legally changed her name to Susan Harwood Ray. She communicated with Eleanor, visiting her in Chicago. The two women formed a tenuous bond, complicated, haunted, fragile. Margaret and Daniel seldom spoke to Elena again, each nursing both guilt and betrayal. They sold the old family home, dispersing memories to strangers. Charles Harwood's legacy became ambivalent, neither saint nor sinner, a father who built a life on a lie. Inside the courtroom, some believed justice was served. Others felt it was cold and incomplete. Eleanor passed within 5 years, leaving behind a modest estate. Her identity remained a footnote in Harwood lore, mentioned in footnotes but never fully embraced. Elena, now in her 40s, spoke rarely about her childhood, but when she did, her voice cracked. "I trusted a lie." The public memory of the case faded, but for those who lived it, the reverberations remained. A family's trust was irreparable, a bond severed by secrecy. Some nights, Margaret dreamt of letters flying across her childhood desk. Daniel woke to phantom tapping on bookcases. Elena lay awake, haunted by the unasked question, who would I have been had I known? Sometimes the most devastating betrayals are the ones we carry in silence. We teach our children trust. But what if that very trust hides the deepest betrayal? In this case, the truth was exposed too late to restore what was lost. The lines between love and ownership, family and blood, were redrawn in courtrooms and broken hearts. The question lingers long after the verdict. What kind of justice can heal a stolen life? Do you think justice was truly served? Or are there still secrets left buried? Share your theories in the comments below. And if you want us to continue exposing the world's darkest family secrets and betrayals, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story we bring to light.